Welcome to ForceProSports Laserforce Podcast with your host, Mr. Mischief.
Welcome to ForceProSports. Laser tag is the world's next up-and-coming sport. It's tactical, modern, a real-life video game. Join us today as we talk all things Laserforce tournaments and community. My codename is Mr. Mischief. I'm an incredibly amateur laser tag sports analyst who aims to make laser tag presentable and exciting for all. And today I am joined by the unnamed Cody. Welcome, Cody.
How's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Good.
We were just talking about the Syracuse Shindig and all things Syracuse. Syracuse is hosting internationals this upcoming year, and Cody's one of the main players on their A team this year. He also just returned from playing on the US East team in Laserforce Internationals 2025 in Brisbane, Australia. And you guys just hosted this big Shindig event, so a lot's going on around you, and I thought I'd reach out to ask you some questions.
Yeah, go ahead, shoot.
Great. How's the Shindig?
I think it was good. I think it overall accomplished what its objective was, even if we had a few hiccups here and there, which was basically to get outside players some arena time in our arena, considering we're hosting Nats next year, and give some of the lesser experienced players some experience in kind of like a tournament environment. So I think the overall objective of the Shindig went well. Got plenty of games in. I think if you look at stats site between the Shindig itself and socials that we played around the Shindig, we got close to, if not over 100 games in over the days that were there. So that's going great.
Yeah, the Syracuse social, it says 45 games played, and the Shindig says 44, and perhaps there are some others intermixed.
I know there were, at least last time I looked, there were some games in the Shindig part that were listed on the game list, but Beans hadn't actually assigned the teams to it. So I don't know if those ones are factored into the numbers or not yet. That's something that he's got to fix if he hasn't already. But yeah.
You absolute laser tag animals. That's a lot of games, dude. Was it too much at all? Do you ever need a break when you're playing in an intense amount of time like that?
Well, I know at least for myself, I didn't really play much of the social games. I left most of the social games to the out-of-towners because this was mostly for them anyway. The only games that I was really playing in was the actual Shindig part of it, and the last day when we did some basically like scrimmages with our A team versus the Cali players that were there and the St. George players that were there. Like I said, mostly it was for traveling players, so I wanted them to get as much arena time as they could. And I was also still having issues with my ankle.
Goodness, man.
Didn't want to be on it as much as possible. And people were definitely ragging on me about that. DK was getting on my case about getting it looked at, but I don't know what it was. Immediately after Shindig was over, and then like the next week of sports and stuff that I played between volleyball and kickball, I had zero issues with my ankle. So it's like after the Shindig was over, it like snapped the fingers. Like I've had like no problems since then at all for like the first time since I hurt myself. So I don't know, magically healed itself overnight, I guess.
We'll see. Strange. All right, I'm glad it's fixed. You're gonna need that ankle, bro. You're gonna need all your limbs. I think. You're defending your title this upcoming year. Oh, okay. Syracuse has won a couple fake Nats. Let's talk about that real quick. I don't know. I came into the scene around 2015, so I watched fake Nats 1 happen. I was there when it happened. And then 21, you guys graciously hosted us back in from COVID and didn't crown yourselves with like an official title of world champions. So tell me about this upcoming Nats.
Well, it's hopefully. I can't say for sure yet because, as you've seen with times that we've hosted tournaments, shenanigans have arisen. But this is hopefully, for once, we're hosting a real Nats, and we're kind of building up very much for it. Between some of the conversations that Beans has had with people from other sites, some of the discussions that were had with some of the people who went to Brisbane and whatnot, we think there's a decent chance that when it comes to the number of teams that attend, this could be the biggest Nats that we've ever hosted, based on some of the interest that we've heard. I don't want to sound like it's too optimistic or anything, but at least from what Beans is going off of, his low estimate right now is 12, and that's his low end, which would be nuts. I've been hearing things like, we were talking even before Brisbane between interest that it could get as high as 16, and that was before going to Brisbane, where we were hearing that the Sydney zone players might be trying to come out now, and there were more players from BDRL and whatnot that we were expecting would want to come out. So there's more players from Australia than we were originally counting on. So we're kind of optimistic that this is going to be a very high turnout Nats.
That is so cool. And from an analyst perspective, I'm like, ooh, I wanna find out all the rosters. I want to start making predictions. If you're coming, figure out your roster quick, and then submit a team name and a team logo quick, guys. Don't wait till the last second. Wow, that could be amazing, dude. What do you think that says about the tournament scene as a whole?
I think it's a sign, kind of, that we're starting to break in a little bit more to newer players since COVID, because we did have a decent amount of momentum, especially if I'm just talking about Syracuse. Even if you don't look at the rest of the scene as a whole, we were getting a lot of momentum in building up our scene before COVID hit. And then COVID kind of threw a big wrench in everything between us, the scene as a whole. We were losing sites because of COVID and whatnot. It was rough. So the fact that we might have a tournament with as many teams as we're looking at after all of the disasters that hit the scene and whatnot, I think it's a good sign that we're starting to slowly build ourselves back up and get back to the momentum that we had before the world ended 5 years ago.
100%. I agree with that. I don't want to like take the idea and run with it to extremes, but I hope it's beginning, man. I hope that this is the beginning of getting far more players coming in than players coming out. You know, definitely been thinking about that a lot, just as sites evolve from what they were 10 years ago, and it's so based on like where the players are at in their individual lives, and with this not being a paid sport. And to be honest, I think though I believe it absolutely can be someday a mainstream paid sport, I don't think we're close to that yet. I think it would take a lot for us to get there. And like we just got to look at it right now as a hobby sport where people pay to come out and do this. And people got to be incentivized. They got to want to be here. They got to have some motivation to do it. And to have as many as 16, I mean, how would you guys even handle that schedule-wise?
Well, at least right now, the dates that Beans has posted for Nats are set for the Monday through Friday of the week that we have. But given that we have an owner in Sanch who is very much willing to work with us and is also probably playing in it, we have the ability to extend the tournament into the Saturday as well if we have enough teams that would require it. And one of the ideas that Beans already have, we're kind of still digging through a bunch of stuff scheduling wise, but one of Beans' ideas is breaking up the schedule into halves, basically, for each day. So, like, let's just say hypothetically we had 12 teams show up. The first half of the day would be just 6 teams show up, play each other, and then they're done for the day. The second half of the day is the other 6 teams. So nobody has to be here for an entire 12-hour day or whatever the schedule ends up being. And then what 6 teams are together each day would be different each day based on what games need to be played, where we are in the standings, whatnot, and everything. A lot of things being figured out, but we have some ideas being thrown around to not make the days too grueling for everybody.
I think that's a great idea. You like, you don't have to be at the building that whole time. You could actually, because playing in you and I were in Auckland in 23, and that was a 6-team tournament, and that felt really engaging to me. Just it was always every 3 games we were playing. It didn't feel like you were really ever sitting around waiting for nothing.
Now we were in and out, basically in and out the whole time.
And it'd be kind of fun if like I were at this tournament and it were my off period. My team can like go. We could be watching the stream while we're out at lunch or something, or while we're having our war room meetings, or you just don't watch at all. If you're not trying your hardest to win, which you should be, cause it's Nats. But you know, people can have breaks too. They can socialize. They can have fun.
And breaks like that gives you plenty of more opportunity because there's going to be 5 other teams that are also on break with you. That kind of gives much more of a chance to socialize and mingle if you want to.
I gotta say, it's very fun to just be the judgmental commentator behind the screen sometimes. Oh, all right. Okay, this sounds really cool. And how's the Armageddon thing looking? Because I know you were trying to link the 2 events, kind of.
So, I'd have to go look at the details of what Armageddon officially posted, but they do line up with each other. I believe the way the dates are is Armageddon goes from Thursday to Sunday, and Nats practice starts that same Sunday, with Nats being right afterwards. And they all start and end in the same place. So it's very easy for people to be able to play both tournaments if they wish, because they're going to be in the same place the whole time. There is a little travel involved with Armageddon, but travel is covered for the entry fee in the tournament. They'll have like Greyhound buses or whatever for that. That'll take you from site to site that's not Syracuse. But you'll start here and end here, and then Nats is here. So it's perfect for anybody who's interested in doing both.
Let's go. Do you have much interest from the Laserforce side of things?
So there was some discussions being had at Shindig with me and Cope talking with some other people there about the potential for Armageddon. And we're already kind of going back and forth trying to take players away from each other and the teams that we were looking at. But I think, at least from what I've heard so far from different people, and there's still some people that I need to reach out to that I've talked to in the past, should this be what people want to do, there's a chance that we could get at least 2 full Force teams to show up at an Armageddon. This is an 8v8 team, not just a 6v6. Because I know I had a team of 8 or 9 players with an alternate that I was looking at. Cope is trying to drum up interest at St. George to basically bring an all St. George team, which would be another team. And between those 2 teams, that doesn't even count some other Force players that I know are probably going to be playing at it because they've played it in other years before. Like there's a few players that play at our site in Syracuse that I wasn't even factoring into those 2 teams that I know are definitely going to show up. So I think we'll have by far the biggest Force representation at that tournament that there ever has been.
Dude, that's amazing. It sounds so fun.
And I'm hoping that it goes the other way too, that with Armageddon being right up next to Nats, that maybe 1 or 2 teams of Armageddon players also decide they're going to stick around and try to play in Nats.
Yeah, I mean, why not? They're already going to be there.
Exactly.
And they're going to get the more official tournament format that way.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I mean, we did have a couple players that had only ever played Force through Armageddon that showed up at Shindig. We had a couple players that live in Buffalo, a couple hours away from here, but are basically Tron players that have played Armageddon. But they come and travel out here to play on some of our tag nights every so often, so they had a little bit of experience. But there were 2 players in Skills, who's a Blast player, and Lone Wolf, who's a Zone player that I've played with multiple times in Armageddon, that came out to Shindig to get their first like true Force experience. So that's already a good sign. So maybe we get a few more people to jump over the edge to come out and play at Nats next year.
Who'd you say it was that came over from other sites or from other systems?
Skills, who's a Blast player, and Lone Wolf, who is a Zone player.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, there were a lot of players at the Shindig that I did not recognize their names, and I couldn't tell if some Syracuse players had changed their names versus if who was coming in brand new.
Well, I can tell you we had at least we had 6 players that had never played in another Force event before, some of which had never played at all. There were 2 California players that came that had literally never even touched a phaser, let alone played SM5. That
Wow.
came and did this. Odin and them are doing some serious recruiting, it sounds like.
Yes,
But we
let's
had
go Cali.
2 brand new players from Cali. We had 2 Armageddon players that came and played for the first time. We had 3, I think, Syracuse players that had been playing with us for a while but had never actually played in a actual Force event. So we had, I think it's 7, if I'm just thinking off the top of my head, players that had never done anything that bit of that kind of level before.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to. This is the Shindig, by the way, the constructed team side of it. So yeah, I was trying to figure out who all these people were. That's cool. Who were the brand new Cali players?
Young Buck and Cornwall.
Okay, that respectfully, I'm sure it had nothing to do with skill, but the fact they'd never picked up a phaser before. Very cool. Who's I am retired?
So that's Will. I don't know if you've met him or not, because he used to play a while back for us. He used to be one of our younger top guns. I don't remember if he was on 8-team or not in Fake Nats 2016. If not, he was very close to it at the time.
I don't know. Is he a tall blonde guy?
Yes.
I think he was their
Kind of,
heavy.
yeah.
I remember that. I remember that stuff. I was there.
So he plays on and off a little bit with us, but he stopped playing seriously like 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure.
I think it was I don't know if we've ever actually talked about exactly why he stopped, but I think it's mostly like we had a lot of drama and stuff happening around tag and whatnot back then that I think he just really wanted no part of, and it pushed him away.
Yeah.
But since a lot of the issues that we've been having have been resolved, and we've really been having no issues with drama at all the last couple of years, he's slowly been coming back and just playing on practice nights every now and then just cause. But I don't know if he has any plans on playing anything seriously. I think we're gonna try to get him to come out and play Nats, but I have no idea what his plans are for that yet.
Gotcha. Well, he's obviously a really good player, or he was in 2016, and he top scored in the for funsies games here. Just know I'm gonna try to push him away because I'm causing a little more drama with this meme I just posted into the Discord.
Oh yeah, I saw that right before we got on for this, and the thing that makes it even funnier is the fact that his name has been set to I am retired for like 3 years now, I think.
I just presumed it was somebody who normally had been playing in Syracuse. I don't know. Clearly, you're not retired, Will. You should change your name to something else. Where?
I always tell people you're not actually retired until you've done it 3 times.
That's funny. That's probably accurate. I bet there are more people who've retired more than once than people who have retired just once. That's probably not true, actually. I think it's just a few famous examples.
But I don't know. I feel like almost every person I've seen say that they're retired, I've seen come back at some point. Except you, but you just retired, so we have
I'm not
plenty
retired.
of time for that. Oh, you're not retired anymore?
No,
I thought you were done.
I never said the words retired.
Oh, well, see, you're dodging the critical point there. That's the right decision. That's exactly what you
I'm
should
playing in February. Loveland's hosting an event. I'll be there.
Yeah, but I don't even if you are retired, like, not even if we're talking about you, even if you're someone who's just retired in general, I feel like playing at a home event doesn't even necessarily count as unretiring.
Well, that's 2 very different things. I didn't know you had to travel to be an active player, in which case we got some players who are active who never began in the first place. Looking at shots fired. I'm looking at 3/4 of your site, bro.
Oh yeah, don't worry, I'm well aware. I am well aware. We try.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you got a full team out in 24 for sure. But no, I mean that's like I'm aware that there will probably be a certain opportunity, a certain window where I will come back at some point. And for how long, how committed, I don't know. But that's why I'm not saying the words, because so many times people will, you know, in that particular moment, usually it's after a tournament, either like a big win or a big loss. They're like, okay, I'm done. And they feel that way in the moment. They can see themselves not coming back, but then actually fast forward a few years, they get the right opportunity. They have the time, they have the money, they like the team they'll play with, and they're back, at least for that one tournament. I just expect frequency will drop off for me, and I think that happens to a lot of players, particularly when you have like big life transitions.
I know we've definitely had a couple people, like Fox, for example, who really doesn't really play much, if at all, except when events are coming around, and then he'll come back and play. Like we just had Shindig. He played in that. I wouldn't be shocked to see Fox not play again until, like, I don't know, a month before Nats. It's just how he's been for like a few years now. Like he'll play right before tournaments to get ready to go for that, but other than that, he's basically checked out.
Gotta practice. I mean, especially this year. Gosh, I'm kind of torn. Let's start talking about. Can we just kind of comb through the Shindig here and then talk about Nats a little more?
Yeah.
I wanna talk about like what teams we think are coming out and talk about the Syracuse and what Syracuse is rostering. Because like you said, the point of the Shindig was to help get some people prepared for the tournament by playing in your arena, just giving some for funsies opportunities. So let's see. So I think this was just the regular tournament. Let's look at the standings. I know this was only like 2 of the days, right? Like and it wasn't trying to be incredibly.
Two and a half. We played a full round and then like half of the second round or something like that.
Yeah. Yep, you're right. You're missing a lot out of the second round.
And a lot, I will say a lot, like I think the next 3 matches or so that are in there are part of the games that Beans hasn't actually assigned to teams yet. So there are a few games that, like if you went to the game list, there's a few in there that aren't actually assigned yet. So both the standings and the player stats are actually not factoring those games in.
Oh, interesting.
So they've been played, they're in here, but none of the stats are actually reflecting those games yet until he assigns what games they were for.
Beans. Cool. Well then, I don't know. These aren't even official standings. Why are we even looking at them? How do you feel the teams went?
There was definitely some issues with how the teams were formed, because the way that it ended up being was we tiered all the players that were showing up. 6 tiers of 6, since we had 36 people playing. And we picked 6 captains and had the captains draft their team, 1 player per tier. But the way captains were decided was Beans just had Sanch pull 6 names out of a hat, and those 6 names ended up being the captains, which I guess kind of fits with the theme of it being a random draw tournament. The captains were random, but that meant the skill level of the captains and the knowledge of the player base that the captains had were definitely skewed, because you had myself and Snuffles as captains, who were A and B tier players at the time. You had who else was Chaser was a captain, Grack was a captain, Cookie, who was one of those Buffalo Tron players from here, was a captain, and Metal Face was the other captain. So those were the 6, and no offense to the other 4, but there's kind of a gap in talent level and knowledge between me and Snuffles and then the rest of them, especially knowledge-wise when it comes to Cookie, because Cookie has never played in a Force event. He's only played practice nights in Syracuse, so the only players that he would really know without asking myself, Snuffles, anyone else who was there, would be the Syracuse players. So he would be immediately at a disadvantage just on knowing who is who and whatnot. So I think just the way the captains were picked could have been better. I think what they could have done was if they wanted to make it random, instead of drawing 6 names, they could have just drawn one of the tiers out of a hat, and then everyone in that tier would be a captain. But then there was the issue with, and I didn't ask her this personally, so I don't know if this was the case, but there was kind of the vibe that Grack was picking players that she wanted to play with, which is not at all an issue, versus the other 5 of us were picking a team that we thought were going to win, which can kind of be reflected in the standings if that was the case. And it was kind of frustrating for some of the players that were on that team, but there was more than just the Shindig. We had the 40-something social games that we were also playing, so we had plenty of stuff going around to spread the wealth a little bit in the games that we had. And I think overall it was fine. I think the one thing that could have been changed potentially was how the captains were determined, and I think that was really the only issue that you could have potentially known ahead of time could have happened. Because there was also the problem that happens with any tournament where you're going to rank players, is there were some people that ended up playing up above or below the skill level they were set at, but that's going to happen in every event that you do this stuff with, and you're not going to necessarily know who's going to fit in that category until the tournament happens.
So the players were picked into tiers, right? And you had to draft one player from each tier?
Correct. So, like in my case as a captain, me being an A-tier player coming to this, I couldn't pick another A-tier player. I had to pick one from each of the other tiers. The big thing was I didn't have to go in order, so I didn't have to go B for my first pick, C for my second pick, and so on. I could pick in whatever order I want. And the way that it ended up going, I actually ended up drafting bottom up.
Yeah. You picked the best values at every tier, I bet.
I ended up having the first pick of the draft, and I picked who I thought was the best F-tier player to get that out of the way. Came all the way back around to me again. By the time it got to me for my next pick, there were only 2 B-tier players left, and I didn't really care which one that I got, so I didn't even bother picking that. I'll just leave that until later.
Yeah.
I went with my E and F picks, who I thought both should have been up a tier from where they were, and they definitely played like that in the tournament. And by the time it got back to me again for my last 2 picks, there was only 1 B player left, so that was my B pick regardless. And there were only 2 C players left, and they were both Syracuse players, so it didn't really matter to me which one I grabbed, and that was how my draft went. My own first 3 picks were really the only ones that mattered.
Well, I commend you for drafting with the most intent to win as possible, because it turned out really well for you. Looked like your team, before having all the rest of the games determined, looks like you guys got the highest amount of wins. So good job.
Yeah, we were thinking about after round 1 re-tiering all the players and then doing teams all over again for round 2. We didn't end up doing that. I don't know what ended up changing people's mind, because I had gone to bed that day expecting that was the plan, walked in the next day, turns out it wasn't. But had we gone through with that, because we did the re-tiering the day before, 3 of the players on my team got moved up a tier. So that'll tell you how that went.
For sure. Gosh, man, it's I almost wonder if it's worth criticizing the way it was done, because if you guys were really trying to make teams as fair as humanly possible, I feel like you would have started by not drawing captains out of a hat. It doesn't seem like that was the vibe. It seems like you guys were trying to make it random.
That was the one thing that I even said when I found out that's what it was, because I picked up Cope from the hotel, And Cope was like, "Oh, what's up? How's it feel being a captain?" And I had no idea that I was even picked at this point. And I looked at the Facebook post and saw that they were all random. I'm like, that might be a bad idea. I even said that as soon as I found out about it, but that was how it was happening, so we rolled with it.
Well, again, it's about intention, right? Like if you were trying to make a very random tournament where there was lots of chance for different things to happen, well, I think you guys were very successful at that. And I also think if you were trying to make as fair teams and as fair of games as possible, you wouldn't be doing the random draw system at all. And DK had this idea, which I think Sergeant Tucker came up with too a while ago, that I think is great, is like you could match the A tier and the B tier and the C tier players on positions every game, and that would make it more fair.
That is exactly what we did for round 2.
Cool.
Round 2, we had just one team pick out of the box, and then whatever that tier player picked, that player on the other team was the same position. We ended up tier matching for round 2.
Sweet. I want to ask you about that in a second, how it went, but it's like, okay, so what do you want out of a tournament? And if you want the randomness, you guys succeeded at that. There was nothing wrong with the tournament format. But the problem is, both with this tournament, the last Syracuse random draw, and I'm even thinking as far back as like Loveland Duos 23, people really want perceived fairness. Now, can you have perfectly fair games? I think objectively it's really hard to. And even when Duos was matching people who were pretty darn close to each other, which is not what random draw does, people were still complaining if they were playing a player that was like 3 or 4 spots above them as opposed to 1 or 2 spots above them. Some players were. Not you. You were just like, I'll take anybody. But yeah, I've said for a while, I think that it's most enjoyable for both the players and the viewers if games are as fair as possible. Everyone wants a chance to win, and close games are just way more fun than total lopsided smashings. So it seems like, I don't know if there's any more debate at this point, that like people seem to really want fair tournaments, and maybe it'd be worth looking at this next time, trying to make a format that's just as fair as possible, making as many close matchups as possible.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at our random draw that we did last year, I think that was about as close as you're going to get to it without coming up with some whole new idea, because the way we did it for that was exactly the way I think you would want to do it if you're looking for even teams, because we did the same thing where we tiered all the players, but instead of having captains who were picking teams, all the teams were also drawn randomly out, one person from each tier. That way there was you weren't going to have a situation where one person knows more about players than another so that they have kind of an edge on getting who they think is going to be better and whatnot. That was all random. The only thing that kind of broke down the little bit of unbalance that we had was people being tiered in places that they shouldn't have been. But that's, again, something that's never going to be perfect, because even if you somehow perfectly figure out exactly how it should be 1 through 36, somebody's going to play above their level that they normally don't. Somebody's going to play below their level that they normally don't. You never know. That's just part of competition. People are going to play better than they usually do. Some are going to play worse than they usually do. Some are going to play right on the line. So anytime you do tournaments like this where you have all the players ranked, it's never going to be perfect. Somebody is going to get the sleeper pick. Somebody's going to get the player that has cooled off. You don't know until the games are played.
Right. You are absolutely right. So, okay. Gosh, how do I do this? I'll share that in a sec. So, you're absolutely right. And so it's easy to throw your hands up and say, well, it'll never be fair, so why try to make it fair? But our previous conversation about having done the draft a little differently or a little better may kind of prove that may not entirely be true. I've been an advocate, like, if you're going to do a draft, the thing that makes a draft fair is that it's a fair competition for good teams, right? You're allowing the 6 captains are actually playing a game against each other. They're competing to make the best teams possible, but they're given as fair opportunities as possible to make that happen. Right? You do a snake draft. If you have the first pick, you're also getting the last pick. And if you get the top player of the tournament, the last player is going to get like the 6th and 7th perceived best players in the tournament. You know this. You know how this works. But I'm explaining it so that people who may not have thought about this may understand. I mean, let's look at something. I created this back in winter when you guys did your tournament. Let's see, I'm pulling it up here. Sorry, for some reason, there it is. Okay, I took round play only. This was those tiers from your East Coast back in winter this last year. And so I think the blue tier is if you were one of the top 6 players, and then turquoise goes down to the 7 through 12, then green is 13 through 20, or whatever those groupings of 6 are. You get what I mean? That would have been 18. So this is like where players actually ended up in terms of MVP, and we can debate MVP. But something I've come to find is that MVP is highly correlated with win percentage, obviously. So obviously the better teams ended up with higher MVP. But it shows you on a pretty, like, undeniable scale, player value fluctuates depending on who they're playing with, too. And one of the things that made Team 2 so great, especially after interviewing multiple of these players, like their synergy was on point. They were absolutely talking about the game in depth, coming up with strategies together. They made each other better players than I think some of these players would have been if had been thrown onto other teams. Like Ender was taking tons of direction from Kodama and Odin. If Ender had been on a team that had 2 other players who weren't coaching him to that effect, would he have been that good? I don't think so. I really would argue he probably would have been a worse player in this tournament. So all this is to say, trap up my point, I agree with you that the captaining could have been done a little different. If you were going to have, like, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with the way Greg drafted, I would say, because nobody mandated you have to draft a team that's going to win. Nobody mandated that of her, and she was not even asked to be in this position if she was randomly pulled from a hat. Like, if you want random people to do a draft, then you're going to get very different motives. We've done drafts at the Loveland scene where we've had captains without, and I'm not going to name names, without being prompted, decide, oh, we're gonna do a training season this year. I'm gonna draft players who are lower tier, and we're gonna lose a bunch of games. We're gonna get better. We're gonna just wear the ankle weights. And then those players get really pissed off because they're like, but I wanted to win. I didn't ask to be on this team. I just got put on here. Yeah, well, I'm the captain, and so here you are now. In Nats 21, fake Nats, when we did the random draw tournament, I was one of the captains for the random draw, and I think it was me, Kodama, Jackal, and Rhea, I think, were the captains. Maybe it wasn't Jackal. Maybe I'm missing that final person.
I think you're right about Jackal. I think I remember that.
Okay.
To be fair, I do not remember much from that portion of that tournament at all, but I think I do remember Jackal being a captain.
It was just us 4 and DK in that room, so I'm the only one that saw this happen. But Rhea got the first pick of that draft, and she drafted Applesauce. And I think Applesauce is great, but I don't think Applesauce would have been the 101 pick over, like, Beans or you or any number of players. And Rhea was drafting up for Funzy's team, and that team enjoyed itself. And that's fine, but I ended up with the stacked team because I was the only one who was drafting purely to win, and I think it did destroy the integrity a little bit of that tournament, just like potentially, and debatably because of the tiers, Greg didn't know, like, there wasn't like a huge disadvantage. Theoretically, if the tiers were working really well, like, Greg's team should have been fine. But because she was drafting with a different intention than winning in mind. She wanted to play with people. I'm presuming. Grack, I actually haven't talked to you. So to be very clear, I haven't talked to Grack about this. But the assumption is like she was drafting to play with people she liked. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody's mandating that she's trying to win. But if you want the most fair teams possible, you pick 6 people who are of somewhat equal skill level, ideally the top 6 players at the tournament, who will have the best knowledge base of how to build a team and how to win games and who the players are. And you give them all fair opportunity to draft teams to beat each other. That's the only way to make it really like the most fair. You can't mandate that people have to take certain players at certain tiers. Like Sabo was one of your players, right, Cody? Like
yes.
Sabo, I'm very proud of Sabo having a huge breakout, being just like this, a rookie in last year's Nats. You know, maybe Sabo was projected to go at that lower tier, but he ended up moving up a tier, right? So he's projected at this lower tier. If one captain decided, I think Sabo's a tier higher, I'm going to reach on Sabo, I'm going to take him a whole round of where everyone's expecting, and then that captain was
exactly why I picked him.
Exactly, right? You would have been...
I told Beans before the tournament even started he should have been moved up, but...
Right. Well, you would have been rewarded as a captain for taking the leap that other captains weren't willing to take. Also, if you had a player who you thought was higher, but actually they were worse than everyone thought, you know, you would be punished for taking that player at that spot. And other captains who don't want that player could avoid, like, I don't think that player is as good. I'm rambling here. I'm just saying, like, let it be a fair competition between 6 captains who know what they're doing and all want to win.
And I'll just add to it. I don't want to make it like it sound like, because like you said, you haven't talked to her. I haven't actually asked her this too. I don't want to make it sound like I'm necessarily attacking Grack for the way she drafted, because this was not a serious event. This wasn't even a real tournament. It didn't actually count for anything.
Absolutely.
So
and also,
if you wanted to draft,
didn't
just
they
to play with whoever you wanted.
And also, didn't they like draft the same person on heavy over and over and over again? Wasn't that also part of why they were losing?
I actually was not paying very close attention to who was rolling what.
Sorry,
but
the resupply was saying like someone rolled heavy like over half the games, which was crazy.
If you considering, I would guess. I mean, I haven't looked, but I would guess it was Grack, considering her luck with the dice. The last random draw with her drawing heavy 15 times or whatever it was, totally would make sense.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I thought that was important context.
If you're a captain and you wanted to draft just to play with people that you wanted to, again, this wasn't a serious event. There was no trophies on the line or anything. Perfectly valid. There's no issue with that. So I'm not like sitting here saying like if that was the way she drafted, that's just bad. You shouldn't do that. No, this tournament wasn't for anything, so that's perfectly valid if that's what you want to do. I just think that that was the reason that might explain the disparity in the overall talent of the teams.
Right. But yeah, and people just want fair games. It's been shown over and over. Okay, yeah. Yep, the Gracking got 6 heavy games as opposed to 2 from DK, 1 from Cornwall, and 2 from Zerg, as far as recorded games.
I wish I could draw a position that I like playing that much. I think I got 1 commander game the entire time. 1 or 2, maybe.
They also had 5 autumn commander games, whereas every other player got only 1 commander game.
Box doing his job and spreading the wealth for sure.
Well, it's distributing chaos for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Kodama with the 6 scout games, Cornwall 4 ammo games, and DK on 4 medic games. Yeah. It's fun. Well, when you play a random event, expect some random results. You know what you're signing up for. But maybe the demand for, I don't know, maybe different formats are more in demand going forward. I don't know. But people like the Box of Destiny. I've never actually played a full random draw aside from that 2021, and that was only like a 2-day event. But people like it. I don't know. There's a reason it keeps coming back, right?
And that's why you're doing that in February, aren't you guys? Or well, you didn't call it the Box of Destiny. That's our trademark term. You called it like the I don't know. I don't remember. It was like the Bowl of Fate or something like that.
I really
I think
don't
it's
know.
what Tucker had on the Facebook post, but basically the same thing. So
I really don't know. If it is a random draw, I will be pushing really hard for it to be like the matched positions. And I would also strongly advocate that we do the draft the way I just noted, that we have like, I don't know, we try to pick 6 of the top players coming to the tournament and just let them draft without any restrictions. And then have like, you know, the first player, the captain would be the A tier, and then the B tier would be your first draft, the C tier would be your second pick, and going forward.
yeah, I actually was under the assumption until the Facebook post was made showing the captains that was exactly how we were going to do it. I just assumed the A tier players were going to be the captains. So
Yep.
I feel like that's honestly the easiest way to do it.
But no, it's okay. It's okay to want randomness. It's just it's gonna make it less fair, and people want fair. I feel like we've rambled on that for far too long. I think people get the point. but thank you for what you had to say.
No problem.
Kind of wanted to sorry, every time I try to pull up some stuff, sorry, Russ, the site is crashing a little bit on me. Maybe we got more traffic than ever before. Yeah, can we look at some of the standouts from that tournament? We had let's see. I'll go over the top 10. I'd be interested to just get your comments when I go through these. So let's see. I'll share that again. All right, so at the top was you, Cody, followed by Black Hammer, Snuffles, Beans, Slaughtermelon, Britain, right? Or Breton?
Yes. Yep.
Cody's Tiny Shirt, Brew, Kodama, Sabo, and Evil. What are your thoughts on the top 10?
I think the top 10 backs up my statement before the tournament that Sabo should have been moved up a tier. But for the most part, it's pretty much exactly what you would have expected based on the tiers going in, because myself, Zach, Beans, and Caleb, and Baden were all top tier players going in. So was Evil. So all 6 of the A tier were in the top 10. And then Snuffles, who was basically the one that we were debating back and forth on whether we were going to have him or Evil be top tier, was also in the top 10. We ended up going with Evil because home site. Kodama, I don't even remember if I mentioned Kodama's name. Kodama was also in the top tier, also in the top 10. Britain, who was a B tier player, in the top 10. You're going to expect B tier players to peek their heads into that. So for the most part, that is basically exactly what you would kind of expect based on what the rankings were going in.
Yeah, somewhat. How much right now is like Black Hammer and Breton and Evil all practicing?
They at pretty much every time we have a practice night, they're there. So it's very, very rare that we have a night of practice and one of them doesn't show up. It might happen here and there with either Zach or Britain based on their work schedules, but very infrequently do they. In fact, I think the last tag night that we hosted, I wasn't even there, and that's an incredible rarity. I think that's the first time I've missed a Syracuse tag night since I lived in Florida. So for the most part, all of the main names that we have are there if we're playing.
And who's your A team for Nats this year?
Assuming no issues come up, it's Beans, myself, Zach, Evil, Britain, Lenny, and then Sanch is our 7th.
Awesome. Glad Sanch is on that team. Dude needs a trophy. He's been a legend in this scene. Okay, cool. So they're all practicing. They're all on your A team. Snuffles coming up at third place, I think, is interesting. I always get this sense. I'm a talk drama in the community. Like, I always get the sense that it's like Slaughtermelon and Snuffles are always how the names are said. It's like Batman and Robin almost. But like Snuffles has absolutely shown out as being a top tier player in multiple of the last few tournaments. I don't think anyone's questioning Snuffles as top talent, but does anyone ever consider Snuffles like top 3 or top 5 in the world? Does he ever get put in that conversation alongside like you know, Kodama or Caleb? How did Snuffles do this tournament? What do you think about that?
I mean, he was one of the players that we were moving up if we ended up going with the re-tiers. Snuffles and Evil would have ended up getting swapped because those were the two that we were kind of debating about going in, and based off round one's performance, that was what we were going to end up flipping. But like I mentioned, we didn't end up going with the swaps, but he definitely played the way that I would expect him to play in our arena, considering he's been here a few times now at this point. So he's got a little bit of an edge on the arena experience here than a lot of the traveling players do, because what is this? I think this was his 4th time traveling here, because he was here in 21. He came here for the random draw that we did last year. He came out here to help us, our US East team, practice a few months ago when we had a few of the St. George players coming out here, and then he was out here for this. I believe this was his 4th, unless I'm missing one.
That's awesome.
Syracuse. So definitely has the hours in the arena.
Very cool. Yeah, I can see that. I do think arena advantage plays a lot into this, but he really showed out, at least in this random or in the team structure portion. When I'm looking through the games, Brew stands out to me a lot. He had like an 11K ammo game, and since Detroit doesn't play as much anymore, you know, there's been talk about this being considered like his new home site, or like he plays here a lot. He played here to practice for the 2025 tournament. And I'm just curious, like, I mean, he's not losing a thing. He seems like he is way up at that top tier as well right now.
I mean, he keeps telling us that he's losing it. Like, both this tournament and the last random draw that we did, he'd show up and be like, dude, I'm not what I used to be. I should be like B tier. I shouldn't be in the A tier. We're like, are you insane? Like, no. Like, I watch you play, and it doesn't look any different. So,
yeah, well, DK's doing that too, and he continues to perform at a top tier level. And I don't know what it is. I'm not there yet. But
oh yeah, and also thinking about it, I realized why I got sidetracked and didn't mention Kodama's name when I had 6 names listed. Zach doesn't count. Zach subbed a few games, so that's why he's up there. You can see he only played 3 games. He just subbed when,
that's interesting.
There was a period where Evil had to miss a few games because he had to leave early, so Zach filled in for him at that time, so he doesn't count.
I want to call out Kodama here. He's up here with the 20 MVP, number 8 in the tournament with a 9% win percentage. When you compare that to everyone else who's up here, I think that potentially to me makes him the most impressive player out of the whole top 10 here, considering he's only like a little more than 3 points behind you at the very top.
I mean, if I remember correctly, going back to the last random draw here, he was number 1.
Yeah, he was.
The last MVP. One. So it's not really, for someone who was retired before this, it's not really that much of a drop off, if any. Like you said, the main reason that his numbers would be lower is just if your team's not winning, it's usually going to affect your stats overall, regardless of how good you are playing.
That's what's impressive to me, man. Like, even on the team with the least amount of wins by a good margin, Kodama shows up as the number 8 player with over 20 MVP points on average. Like, that's completely insane to me. I think it's just way more of a show of skill than when you have the resources to work with on a different team. Now, speaking of that, Sabo did have one of the highest win percentages being on your team, or the highest. But Sabo, rookie from last year, one of our newest players, coming in at number 9. He was on your team. What did you think of Sabo?
Well, he played exactly like I thought he was going to, if not better. because my philosophy going in, especially with when I was telling Beans that I thought he should have been up a tier, is that between the times that I've seen Sabo play and the practice nights that I've been to for you guys, like when we did the Mega Members nights, and seeing him play at Brisbane, I think out of all of the players that were between your B team in 24 and the Loveland Curveballs that went in 25, I personally think he has the most potential out of all of them. And I think already this year, he might have arguably been the best player on the team at Brisbane. And he's only been playing SM5 for what, 7 months, 8 months, something like that.
Yeah. He'd been grinding Laserball like for 1 year before that.
I even said it to Beans before the tournament that I think Sabo might be your guys' version of our Zach. Somebody who started and just immediately got it. Like, it clicked immediately and just exploded right at the start. I think he's very much somebody that could fit that category for you guys.
It's definitely a show of talent. He's very talented. But I also think it's a show of what happens when you condense tons of laser tag games into a very short period of time. Just in the last, 2 years, he's played about 2,000 games of laser tag between Laserball and SM5. So even though he's not very high in terms of total games played, that is, these are like Tomik numbers. These are as far as the rate of play, he is always in the arena. He plays twice a week at least, if not more. So yeah, I'm not surprised. He's put in the work to build up that muscle memory. Let's go to the next tier. From 11, we got Zerg, Death Knight, Cope With It, Golden Pony Boy, Jackal, Chaser, Disco Monkey, Mo Fox Given, Fenrir, and Odin's Fist. I remember Zerg from 21. He must have been 18 or something at the time. He's probably got his brain developed a little more. And I remember I was really excited to draft him onto my random team. He was my second pick in 21 because I just loved the way he played. He was the biggest bright spot on that Syracuse B team. Very fast, very intelligent. So I'm excited to see him here. Especially, he has the 17% win rate, so he's still playing at that level.
He didn't get necessarily a full workload at this tournament because due to his work schedule, he was, you can see in the win rate, he only played 6 games. He was really only able to play half the tournament, which is why, which was honestly the only reason I didn't end up picking him from C tier, because he's not a C tier player. He would normally be a B tier, but because he was only going to play half the tournament, and he had a sub that was going to play when he wasn't here that was going to be probably in D tier, we basically evened it out and put it in C, as you're getting both of those players, whichever one is there at the time. So either when Zerg's there, you got an extra B tier player, or when he's not there, you now have a D instead of a C. So we were saying that would kind of balance it out. So yeah, he only ended up getting about half the games in as everybody else who was actually playing. So
excellent. It sucks that he couldn't be there for the tournament, but for the whole tournament. But I'm glad he was there for some. Yeah, I like him as a player. I'm a big fan. Then we got DK, who all the same things I just said about Kodama. DK with the 8% win percentage comes in at number 12 here. I don't know. I always roll my eyes whenever he talks about how he's losing it, and I get it. Aging does things to you. And I also think, frankly, it's easier to take yourself off the podium rather than have yourself ripped off by not being able to live up to your own expectations. Totally get that. But I think it just shows how much your brain matters in SM5, and it's not just your ability to sprint and run around walls quickly. DK is still performing at a very high level. Yeah, no comment on that. So
I totally agree with everything.
Yeah, totally agree.
How he played ammo and at Brisbane,
oh my gosh, dude, yeah, it's crazy.
There's very few people that I've seen come out and say oh, I'm not as good as I used to be, and then their play matches that statement.
It's like a person who's like crying with money. It's like he's crying with his trophies. Like, I'm so bad. um, I'm sorry. Remind me who Cope With It is again. I'm recording this. We started recording about 5 in the morning for me, and you are up all night. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
7 for you, just so people know.
So Cope is originally an Armageddon player. He's a Blast player from Michigan that just recently moved to St. George and has started playing Force with all the St. George players out there and plans on playing in Nats not as an Armageddon player, but as a St. George player next year. So he's been getting a lot of reps in from Force recently. He was even one of the players that came out to help us practice when we were practicing for Brisbane. He was part of the group of St. George players that came out here. So,
Dude, he moved to St. George? I can't
yep.
believe they're doing it again. Just having like, because like we don't get paid to play this sport, and when you have people moving states, like moving their job, their life, their family, whatever it is, like they're moving to another state and then getting to play with you, like that is something that happens in professional sports.
It
Like,
worked out absolutely perfectly because I believe what it was his wife got a new job that was housed in St. George, so they had to move for it. And guess what? There happens to be a
oh my
SM5 site in St. George,
gosh.
so it lined up perfectly for him.
If there's any site that's going to become the new, oh gosh, well, this is assuming that Brisbane like ever like loses player base and stops attending tournaments or something. Cedar City feels like the next site that's going to be able to really compete as the next super site or the next Brisbane site. But I'm also thinking that with the influx of the awesome like the BDRL players, if they're going to keep coming to tournaments, maybe Brisbane's just going to keep being Brisbane for the next 20 years. I don't know. But both those sites scare me. And okay, so Cope With It, you got to play with him, right? Like how is he as a player?
Uh, for somebody who hasn't played a lot of dedicated Force, who before like this last year really his only Force experience was an Armageddon, great. Cope was one of the other players that I told Beans beforehand I thought should have been moved up a tier and ended up playing and fitting that role. So
I love how this whole thing is just, well, I told them to put him a tier higher and they didn't, so I drafted them and then we won.
yeah. That to be fair to Beans, it wasn't like I gave him 2 suggestions and he ignored it. There were other things that I said that did end up getting changed. Those were just the 2 that didn't, so I jumped on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Chaser has stood out to me in this tournament. He seems like he's really tiered up. I saw a bunch of games when I was combing through some of the games where he was just competing with top tier players on 3-hit. What'd you notice about Chaser this tournament?
I only got a good view just based on how the box and the rolls went of how he was playing in really one game. There was a game that he subbed for my team when my C tier player had to leave early. And I rolled, I believe it was medic that game, and he was the heavy. And every time he was back defending, we really weren't getting much pressure at all. So Britain, who was the ammo, would tell him to just go attack, and then they'd both leave. And then I would immediately get swarmed as soon as they left, and I'd be freaking out about it. So by the end of the game, I'm just like, why is everyone leaving me? Why is my heavy leaving me? Every time it happens, I keep getting shot. And then I walk out of the game and he has like a 10K heavy score. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm perfectly okay. I don't care anymore. That worked perfectly fine. Take it. I don't care. That works.
I don't matter. Just as long as you're smushing people on the other end of the tournament.
Yep. We won. That's the important part. I don't care anymore. So I'm like, whatever was happening out there was going great. And I obviously had no idea because I'm all the way back running for my life as the medic. But I mean, if I die with 2 minutes left in the game and my whole team has lives, that doesn't matter, especially if we have our heavy out there absolutely dumping on them. So
very cool. I'm going to skim a lot of these just like, Syracuse players who are good, doing good. What do you expect? Fox off the bench, off the couch, just comes in. He's doing good. Disco Monkey keeping keeping it consistent. What would this be, like number 16? Disco Monkey proving again he's very good, sometimes underrated. Fenrir, remind me who Fenrir
talking
is.
with I don't know. I don't think so. Because I'm pretty sure the first tournament that Fenrir played in was the 2022 one that we did. That was just 4 teams and 3 of them were Q's teams. I'm pretty sure that was his first event. So I'm pretty sure you don't know him.
What were you saying about Disco Monkey?
I was saying that, like, I don't know. I haven't gone through and dug through stats, so I don't know if necessarily the numbers line up with it. But both me and Britton were talking about it, along with when we were talking with some other people, that at least visually, just like watching how the games went, I think this was the best I've seen him play in our arena. So, like, I think that at least visually, again, I don't know if the stats line up with it, but it felt like this was his best performance in Syracuse that I've witnessed.
Huh. Maybe DK and Baden can learn something from him. Watch and learn, guys. Disco Monkey's over here peeking.
I mean, hey, when you live and breathe tag,
I know.
And Fox always says it's just like riding a bike. You're never gonna unlearn it.
Man, yeah, that's DK's problem. He's not obsessed enough with tag. He just needs to breathe tag a little more. Okay, so where's Fenrir from? Is he a Syracuse player?
Yeah, he is a Syracuse player.
Very
he
cool.
also has not many games in there because he couldn't play the first day because he's a firefighter and they had like a mandatory training the first day of our tournament, so he couldn't miss that. So ended up missing the first day, but he was here for the rest of it and got games in then.
Oh, cool. Well, Fenrir, God bless you and your country thanks you. Firefighting is a very admirable profession. I was taken aback at the last Syracuse random draw by the amount of just random players you guys have hiding in your city, and they just come out of the woodward. What is that?
Oh,
Woodward?
Beans was doing some digging for
like,
this. Beans wanted to get us to that 36 number, so Beans was like reaching out to people, trying to get anybody he could to show up for this. So
it's very cool. And that does allude to your point about how if you come out of retirement to play in a home site tournament, it's really not as much of a deal. And Odin down here at 20. Odin's pretty good. The next group we have Ender, Stealth Elf, I Am Retired, Will, Disco Stew, Skills, Metal Face, Sayada, Cookie, I'm Straight Garbage, and Liz Laugh Love. Who's I'm Straight Garbage?
That is Alex. That is Beans' nephew.
Oh, cool.
The one who used to be Alex Boxes or whatever.
Alex Boxes. Cool.
He is our resident, changes his name all the time. So
nice. Guy next door loves that. What'd you think of this tier?
I think mostly it lined up kind of similar to what I would have expected based on the pre-tier rankings and whatnot, except Skills played above what he was ranked, but I was kind of I wasn't necessarily thinking it was going to be as much of a gap as Sabo and Cope was on where they thought, but I had a feeling he was going to be the best out of the bottom tier, which is why I picked him first, and it ended up lining up that way. Will was a little bit lower than I would have expected, but the biggest thing with Will was we didn't know how hard he was actually going to play because he hasn't played seriously in a while. And our thought was like, well, if he did decide that he wanted to play as hard as he could, he definitely could be playing at this level. We just don't know if he is. So I don't know necessarily how hard he was really playing. I don't even know what his role. I see he only got commander once the entire time, so I don't know what his role distribution was because it can be easier to build up stats on some roles than others. He didn't even play ammo a single time the entire tournament.
Mostly scout and medic.
So I think statistically he was a little bit lower than I thought, but again, we didn't really know what his mindset was coming into this. So,
how's Disco Stew looking?
Still chugging. It's Stu. He knows the arena better than most people here. He's just like Baden, where
yeah, right.
It's basically a second home at this point.
Right.
He got 5 games at Resupply. Is that I'm looking at, which is his main spot as it is. So he was sitting right at home basically half the tournament.
Yeah. You got 6 games in the other positions.
You can you can never expect bad things when you have Stu playing at Resupply. Just knows so much about strategy and whatnot. He's like the East version of DK at that point.
He's like a mixture of DK and Than, because he's just one of the most like chill and calming people you could ever talk to. So I think he brings a lot of glue to a team.
He got a 1K unsportsmanlike penalty for punching a barrel at the last random draw tournament, and when I was told that we had a 1K, when I was told that that's what happened, I was just like, wait, really? Stu was the one. Oh, like, okay. And I'm like, he came out of the game later to apologize to me for it. I'm like, look, if anybody in this scene deserves to get mad one time and get a 1K penalty for something, it's you, because I don't think I've ever seen you mad in my life.
We've got let's see, not a great commander game here, but we've got almost a 10K commander game right here from Stu.
Oh, if you changed windows, I am not seeing a different window.
Oh shoot, share this tab instead. Sorry.
There we go. Now I see it.
Let's see if I can open this up here. Sorry, I'm pulling this up because, to be publicly honest, I was commentating on one of the US East games during eliminations, and they did a very silly thing when they put Baden on ammo, and part of that was putting, I think, Scythe on heavy and Stu on scout in the tournament. And I was pretty critical of all 3 of the choices at the time. Now, did they nearly lose that game to Auckland? Yes. So I'm partially, or did they lose the game to Auckland? So I stand.
If I remember correctly, I think we lost the game and then ended up winning the match on the second match.
Because you went back to your what
normal
worked.
Lineup.
Yes. I was pretty critical of that choice. It did not seem optimal, and finals is, in my opinion, not the time to be experimenting with that stuff. But I definitely, I think, was a little too critical of the idea of a Stu on scout, because he's a very smart player, and if a player like DK can be an amazing scout or ammo, I know Stu is just as capable. I mean, like, maybe that's not the same kind of ceiling, but he is a great player. Okay, remind me who. So Skills, where's Skills from?
Michigan.
Okay.
Last player, so he would be one of the Armageddon players.
An Armageddon player. Okay. And then who's Zayada?
Zeta's a new player from
Zeta.
St. George.
Okay.
So Zeta was someone that we had zero knowledge on coming in. So.
Nice. This is so exciting, dude. Just seeing like multiple sites gaining numbers and bringing in new players. There's a lot this tournament. Who's Cookie?
Cookie's one of the Tron players that plays out of Buffalo that comes and plays with us a lot.
Sweet. And then Beans' nephew came, straight garbage. Liz Laugh Love, of course. From Loveland. Autumn. Play Buttercraft, who's that?
So that is my younger brother.
Let's go.
He's played on and off with us for a few years, but like super like once every few months type of inconsistency. But this is the first time really that we've hosted an event that he had the ability to actually go to. So he was like, screw it, why not? I'll go.
Cool. What did you think?
I don't know. Actually, I didn't actually talk to him much about it since because
spoken like a true brother.
Just because of my work schedule, our schedules don't necessarily line up that well. So I think I meant to bring it up to him at some point after the last day of socials and just have totally forgotten about it. So.
Okay, well, cool. Welcome to the scene, Cody's younger brother. Who's Drake?
So Drake is Pat. I don't know if you've met
from
Pat.
Brisbane?
No. He's from Syracuse. I don't think he played in 2016. He was around in well before 2016 because I'm pretty sure he played on our A team in 2011. Mm-hmm. But he has not played in a while. I think before this year, when I saw him show up at the New Year's Eve party that we run every year, before that day, I think it had been at least 6 years since he walked in the building. So he is just kind of coming back and getting his legs underneath him again this year. So this was his first time at any kind of an event in I don't even know how long. So
Nice.
There's one of the examples of Beans digging into the depths to get more people.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, that could be a huge factor in how many teams show up to Nats this upcoming year. Not only could you have multiple Syracuse teams, but you could have lots of people filling in gaps on other teams.
See, Beans is expecting us to have 3 out of Syracuse. He shooting for 4. I think that's definitely a stretch, but that's his ultimate goal.
It could happen. Remind me who Lone Wolf is.
He's zone player from, I think he's from Pennsylvania.
Okay. Cool.
Armageddon player.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I know I asked you about this a while ago, but I didn't have all the names in front of me. And then Waz?
Another one of the Buffalo-tron players from near here.
Sweet. And then these were the new Cali players straight out of like having no experience.
Correct. Nothing at all.
Cornwall and Youngbuck. Okay. Gosh, how many new players was that? Or at least players I don't know. Like, that was like 10 or so, at least. Crazy tournament. And then, I'm just gonna briefly go over to the let's see. I'm gonna briefly go over to the social games just to check it out. So checking out these top games like Brew with the 11K ammo, Kodama nearly 14K commander. That must have been a hell of a heavy game if you only got 5K but nearly 30.
I think it was like a 6-minute elim or something like that.
Oh yes.
It was a game that ended fast.
Okay, let's talk about these. So you did a couple team practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sorry, remind me who's not on this team that is on your actual A team. You got Sanch, and then
Sanch is our 7th. He wasn't playing. He was there hanging out, but he wasn't playing during any of this. But it would be myself, Beans, Zach, Lenny, Britton, and Evil.
Lenny was missing then. Okay.
Correct.
So Will was subbing in for Lenny.
Yes. Lenny was reffing volleyball because he gets paid to do that, and it was playoffs, so he gets paid extra for doing that. So he was not going to miss that, and I do not blame him.
Nope, don't blame him at all. But yeah, this was a very fast elim onto the Cali practice team. I don't know.
Oh, then I know exactly what game this was. This was the one where I got a nuke cancel on Odin because he tried to drop a defensive nuke in kill zone when I was attacking their resupply and did not realize that Kodama had just kicked me out. So I walk around the corner right into him nuking, and I was going to turn on before the nuke went off. And it was just unlucky because I had no idea he was there, and he had no idea I was coming. It was just terrible timing.
Man, that was so selfish of Kodama. Just take the heavy attack. Come on. Okay, very cool. Let's see. So yeah, we got some top games here. Top players. Will only had the 2 games, but Will was the #1 player by average MVP. And then we got Brew at the top, Black Hammer, Kodama, Snuffles, You, Beans, DK, Slaughtermelon, Ponyboy. This is a little less dependent on which team you were playing with the whole time, I would say.
The only thing I'm wondering, because I can't remember, is this doing all of the games at once, or is this splitting it by day? Oh yeah, because there's a date select at the top, so that was, you can see.
Oh, we got 5 days.
Yeah, Goodness. You can see how people played each individual day.
Wow. Here's Chaser at the top of the day with only one game. How many games did Ender play? Ender up there, 6 games. He's being a top 5 player. That's crazy. Okay, so This tournament was fun. We got to see a lot of players in a lot of contexts just showing out. Tell me about the practice games between you, Cedar, and Callie.
Well, we only played Callie once because we played the one game. We didn't end up playing the return game because Odin was nursing something, I think, with his ankle or foot, something. So they weren't going to be full strength, so they didn't really want to bother with the second match. We split with St. George because we beat them the first game by elim. And they beat us the second game, where we could have beat them if Zach was pushing harder to get his nuke quicker. We probably would have elim'd them because Snuffles only had 4 lives at the end.
Yeah.
But it's one of those situations where Zach wasn't necessarily high on lives, and he had no idea how close we were to elimming them or how close the game was. So it's not like he knew he had to be pushing as hard as he could at the time. The biggest difference, though, with the second game is we had Nate subbing for us instead of Will, because Will had to leave. And no offense to Nate, but Nate is not really on the same level as Lenny or Will, especially at medic, because medic is probably his weakest position. But that was everyone else was playing in a position that they normally would be playing in a team practice like this. So he was kind of just put where we needed it. But either way, we still lost the game in our own site, even with us replacing a player from our own center. So that's something that we have to discuss a little bit here. Granted, it's not like St. George had their A team either, because they had Baden playing instead of whoever would normally be playing for them.
I imagine it would be Thunder.
That is who I would expect. And
or Tandor, I've heard rumors, could be coming back.
I will believe it when I see it, but there's definitely been talk about it.
Yeah. Man, yeah, Baden took a big poop on you guys in that game.
Oh yeah, Baden did something different that game. With he was just kind of flanking, going back and forth on the back wall of our arena, just running back and forth, shooting people like that. And I know Beans was bringing it up a lot. Beans was saying he was having a hard time dealing with that. And I didn't really see him that much, considering I was playing heavy, mostly defensively, so I didn't run into him doing that much. So I don't have a personal experience of it, but that was something that Beans was commenting on, that he was doing that he hadn't seen other people do, and he was having a issue breaking through it.
I will say it is a blessing when your team gets beat, especially if you're the home team. I hope this gives you guys actually something to look at and study and use to improve your team, because when you just win all the time, it's really hard to make improvements. I know this was a practice game, and we are like 10 months early. The fact you guys are getting these games and practicing 10 months early, like, tell me about your team and what practices are looking like for you guys.
Well, unfortunately, we've only played once since Brisbane. And I wasn't even there for it, because they only played because a bunch of the Detroit players came by during the New York State Fair, and the only time that they had that they could play was at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and I work, so I couldn't play. So I wasn't even there for that. So the only time we've actually played since Brisbane, I'm pretty sure, is Shindig. And the socials that we played around it. I think the day before Shindig, when some of the traveling players who got here early got together to play, was the first time, is at least the first time I had played since Brisbane. But given that we have Nats coming up, and we're already trying to, Beans made a post the other day in our group trying to plan how we want to do teams past the A team. I think we're working to try to find a day that we could consistently have people showing up for. I already know we're planning ahead for 2 days in November to play, because Stu, Baden, and Skills are coming out here again. So we're going to play those days. Plenty of time to work out people's schedules and whatnot. Plus, with one of the days that we used to play a lot being Sundays, we have football season going on right now. So we tend to have less numbers on Sundays during football season. But when football ends, I foresee Sundays opening up for people again, and that would be another consistent day for us to play.
That's awesome. And it is 10 months out. It's not that you guys are in any dire trouble. I'm sure when it comes to those final 3 months before the tournament, there will be a lot more consistent practice, which will be cool. I hope you guys can get a really solid B team together that you can actually test yourselves against, learn from, build together with.
I think we definitely could. I think there's plenty of people that are actively playing right now that I don't know if it would be our best B team that we've ever put forth, but it would definitely be up there in the terms of B teams that we've had.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing.
Assuming they want to do like A, B, C, D. There's also talks of, do our other teams want to kind of play more like, do you want to play with specific people, or do you want to spread the talent out? But if they decide to go with just a straight A, B, C, D type of format, I think we definitely could have a very decent B team showing up.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. You guys clearly have the numbers, and it'd be very interesting to kind of think where they would rank among the other teams. See, Cedar versus Cali looks like Cedar took this game here. Kodama and DK with pretty strong scores there. And then looks like Cali took the second game here against. So that was a split between Cali and Cedar. Very, very close. There's not like a clear hierarchy then between the three of you. I mean, I think you guys are definitely at the top. That loss was barely a loss.
Like I said, just a few, that it was close enough that just a few things go differently and the result's completely different. It was definitely a tight game.
Autumn balled out this game. 1.5 hit diff on ammo. 8 Caleb alive. It'd be very cool to see Ender in a structured team environment. I've only seen them in a random draw format so far.
I actually got thrown off when we were playing Cali the one time, because when I was in our base getting ready before the game, I was kind of going over in my head who we were playing against. I'm like, oh, so we got Kodama, DK, Odin, Autumn, Disco, and I was thinking, like, did they bring in Drac or Ender as their sixth? And then somebody told me, oh, they have Baden playing. So I was like, oh, I was getting ready to be playing against Baden again. And then at one point I walk around the corner and shoot Ender. I'm like, huh, that's not Baden.
Yeah, a bit different. Ender's really good, though.
Oh, yeah.
Just for how much he's played.
Especially since his first time playing official SM5 was the random draw last year. Yeah, definitely.
It's exciting that Cali might actually have some newer players to choose from and work with in building up their site, quote unquote. It's cool they're recruiting people. Okay, been meandering a lot about this. Thank you for sharing all about the tournament, about your practices. Can we conclude today by talking about Nats 25?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know where to start with that. How was it to arrive in Brisbane, first of all? Like,
well, when I finally did arrive in Brisbane,
right, because you got delayed, right?
Oh yeah, 2 days. That sucked. I ended up missing the members' night on the Monday that I was planning on going to, though I probably wasn't gonna play considering my ankle at the time. But I got first time at the arena. I think it was Saturday before the tournament. They had some socials late that day that I showed up for. I think I only ended up actually playing in one game. It was more, we didn't have our whole team there, and I was more just walking through the arena to figure things out, talking to people that had shown up. Didn't help that the one game that I played, I tweaked my ankle again, so didn't want to risk it any further.
My goodness.
The stupid lip at the entrance of Helm, I totally forgot was there, and
I've heard.
I stepped on it with my bad foot trying to get away from a missile, and yeah, I was done. Uh,
Yeah.
but had real practice the Sunday when we finally had our whole team organized and whatnot. We had some actual practice games on the Sunday, and then the tournament itself happened, where all of the shenanigans that occurred.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the process with your team like during the week?
Well, our biggest thing was we were just trying to figure out what lineup was going to work the best for us. Our biggest issue that became a hang up throughout the week was the fact that we didn't know how good Scythe was going to be, considering he hadn't played in a while. And what didn't help any of that was that he unfortunately got food poisoning the first day of the tournament.
Oh, come on.
Which completely messed him up. Like, you could tell it was starting to bother him the second half of Monday, and then Tuesday he was like basically dead. Like, there were games where I would be playing and I'd see Scythe barely able to move, if like he's doing everything he can just to not throw up in the arena. So I'm like, that's sucks, and
That really sucks.
not necessarily something that we can control, but it definitely throws a wrench into plans. I don't know how 100% or how close to 100% he was by the end of the week, but I think that happening caused us to never actually get the full version of Scythe that we were expecting. And there was a lot to that. It was between the issues of travel that he had, because he also got in late like I did. He didn't even end up getting there until like the Saturday before, when he was supposed to get there earlier than that. His bag didn't show up until a couple days into the tournament, so he was dealing with that. He got food poisoning. He just had so much stuff going on that wasn't tag related that was causing issues. So we had that. And we had the issue with my ankle causing my performance to not be what I would have wanted it to be, because the biggest factor that would have been different had I been 100%. We were talking about this in our team chat before I hurt myself, that if we wanted to swap who was going to be playing Commander whenever Scythe wasn't playing it was going to be me at the time. Beans was going to be the one that was going to stay on Scout, or maybe move to Ammo if we wanted to move him to something else. But then I got hurt, so Beans ended up jumping into that role instead. I don't know how different that would have ended up being had I been playing instead, because I didn't play any Commander in that arena, so I don't know how I would have played in that arena playing in that role, or how much I would have adapted to that. But that was a plan that we had going in that ended up getting scrapped because I couldn't run as much as I normally would be able to. I think it kind of worked out well for what happened, though, considering how well I was playing at Scout, and how I figured out very quickly that Helm was a very, very strong point, and I just was not going to leave. I didn't care if you came in there and shot me. I will give you a reset or two if it means somebody else shoots you and gets you to leave before I do. So I was in there as much as possible, and it was working great.
Sounds like you and Sergeant Tucker had similar experiences playing Scout.
Oh yeah, there were plenty of times where half of my game was trying to get shots on the heavy and the resupply so our team could get in, and then the other half was just dueling other scouts who are trying to take the spot away from me.
Very cool. Okay, so Scythe had food poisoning. You tweaked the ankle. Didn't seem like you guys could get to full strength by the end of the week. All throughout the week, kind of looking at the scores and remembering, you guys were pretty firmly 4th or higher all week. I don't think you really lost any games throughout the week to any lower seeded teams, except for one time with the Loveland Curveballs, where it did not seem like you were, frankly, putting out your strongest lineup.
Nope, Baden wanted to sit a game to rest, so we went out there and changed our lineup up. And I mean, I don't know if I remember from my perspective from the game didn't necessarily feel like it was going that bad from where I was, but clearly what was going on elsewhere was not great. So I don't know necessarily what exactly was the issue in that game. But after that, Baden was like, all right, I guess I'm not sitting anymore. So we went back to normal after that.
I mean, Scythe had a great game. I could share my screen again. Over here just hogging all the stats for myself. Scythe had a great game. 1.5 hit diff. 41 hits on the Waffle Raptor, or the Babe. But otherwise was getting beat up a bit. But yeah, Beans did not have a fun time. 6 medic hits. He was just tanking a lot of shots. And since it wasn't an elim game, him and Do Not Pass Go, like the Loveland Curveballs, just kind of ate your 3 hits alive. Sabo and Redneck Tech in particular with
I remember
2
walking
hit
out
diffs.
and seeing that, and I'm like, we can't be having both scouts having a double hit diff against us.
That's crazy. Sabo 31-8 on Beans. Redneck Tech 22 on both of the 3 hits. Yeah. Redneck Tech played out of his mind that tournament. Anyway, so throughout the week, you guys are firmly in that spot. We kind of get through to finals, and yeah. So, tell me about your guys' mindset and state of health coming into finals day.
Well, my team is old, so we're all having our own little aches and pains just from a week of running and whatnot. But I was basically at the best that I was all week. I didn't necessarily decline at all. My ankle basically stayed steady throughout the week, so I was feeling really no different in finals than I was the beginning of the week. Like I said, I don't know what level Scythe was at by the end of the week. I don't know how close to 100% he was. I'm pretty sure Baden was having no issues. Beans, the day before finals, fell and landed hard on his knee running up the ramp at the start of the game, and was having issues with that because, of course, Syracuse players can't stay healthy, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man.
Like, he ran up the ramp, went to turn left, tripped, landed hard on his knee on the ramp, and then, like, couldn't walk. We had to take him out for that game, restart with a sub, with Tomik playing instead, and he was done for the rest of that day. I don't know how I think he said that he was basically fine by the time it got to finals, but I don't know how much of that was actually true or not. But I think really, in the grand scheme of things, it was all just general. You've been running around up and down ramps for 5 days. You're not gonna be perfect at this point. But there was nothing, I think, really unexpected at that time.
Okay, so was he coming in fine for finals? Like, was he good to go, Beans?
It looked like it. I don't know if he felt like it, but I didn't really see anything in finals-wise that was glaring from him.
So it had been a bit of a marathon. Now, were you guys still figuring out your lineup coming into finals?
Kind of, because like I said, we didn't really know how 100% Scythe was. So our biggest thing was, like, did we want to have Scythe keep playing Commander? Because if he's 100%, then that's probably the right decision. But if he's not, I think we're losing out at that point. And it was basically just, we were kind of trying to figure out if that was going to be what worked, basically. And then when we got to playing US West, we did our normal lineup for the first game, and we lost. So we're like, you know what? We have to win this second game. What we did the first game didn't work. Let's just try something different here. Hope it does, and hope something breaks through, because this is the game that we need. And I don't remember if we won the second game but still lost the match, but we had it close in the second game. Like, if I remember correctly, we killed Than before Stu died, so we could have potentially pressured them for an elim, and they kind of just walled this last few minutes of the game and kept us out. So I don't know if it was just something they did that caused us to play better that game, or if the change that we did make for the second game ended up being theoretically the right decision. But I feel like the second game went better than the first, even if the result didn't necessarily end great.
I would agree with you. The first game, so we're skipping all the way to very finals against US West, which I'm sorry it didn't turn out your way, but what a story. Just the West versus East all week, and the narratives of, like, the older players versus the newer talent, and Levellanders stepping up into these roles. But yeah, the lineup you guys had with the Scythe ammo, which did help you win against Auckland, that's kind of the impression I got. So I almost want to track the story a little further back, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you come into finals, you start against Auckland, and it was a close game, but they beat you guys 2K. That was the Scythe Heavy and the Baden on ammo and Stu Scout. After that game, you guys flipped it back. At least Scythe and Baden flipped. I'm looking. Yeah. Stu stayed on Scout with the 1.25 hit diff. And Baden came out with the 10K heavy game, 1.2 hit diff, 4 missiles, 3 medic hits. And Beans had himself quite the game. 5 missiles for him. He must have had quite the hit diff on the leech there. Yep. Otherwise, like, that's kind of Bean's style. He tanks a lot of shots. He gets a lot of missiles. But yeah, you got to commend the team and Scythe with the 1.79. So you guys figured that out. Seemed like the next game against Brisboom. I just got to ask, what was the conversation like around games against Brisboom?
Well, by the end of the week, we knew what was going to happen. So we just went in there. We wanted to put up as much of a fight as we could, but we knew what the result was going to be by the end of the week. Beginning of the week, we were trying to see exactly what we could do that would work against them. I think our first game, either our first game or one of the games in our first match against them, we had actually survived the longest against them of any team that had played them so far at that point. We made it, I think it was a little over halfway into one of the games. But it went kind of just downhill from there for the most part. So we were just like, we're going to try to do whatever we can to hold out against them, but we kind of know what the result's going to be like by the time we got to finals. Because we're like, if we haven't figured out something to do against them at this point, it's kind of too late, considering how dominant they had been.
You know what? I'm gonna speak candidly on this. Partially because I think it's good for people who are learning from you guys going into tournaments, like lessons to take away from this. So this is not, like, I totally get going up against Brisboom expecting to lose, totally. But you guys were planning, you were hoping to go for second place this tournament, planning to be that second seeded team. That was your goal. And these were your first 2 games against Brisboom. I could tell that on your off games, the break games, you guys would put Lenny in on heavy, and Tomik would play these games. I think Scythe, with the food poisoning, was sitting out. Fair enough. I think it would have benefited you guys a lot to put your full lineup against Brisboom and try to survive as long as possible. Even if you knew you were going to lose, I think that practice would have been amazing to have for you guys. Playing against the best team, trying to use that to finally craft your lineup and your strategy, I think that would have really helped.
I will say, I might be mistaken when I said the game that we lasted like 10 minutes against them or whatever. I think now that I'm thinking about it, that was what we did the Sunday practice night, because we were one of the teams that played Brisbane, I believe, that night. Because we were their last practice match at the practice night. We did that then. But the biggest part was we knew that if we wanted Tomik to play in finals, if we needed him in finals, he had to get the minimum required games in. So we were trying to find what would be the best spots to put him in without necessarily messing up any chemistry that we had or any plans that we had working out. So, because no offense to Tomik, but he was the 7th on our team. So in games that we knew were going to be close, and we were going to go at full balls to the wall with what we were going to. But we wanted to make sure that Tomik got his games in case we needed him in finals, because God forbid somebody hurts themselves again. We want that option there. We don't want to just have the 7th, then not use him at all, and then we can't even use him when we do need him. So we needed to find the right places to fit him in without completely forgetting about him.
That makes a lot of sense. And in your defense, in round 2, you guys did put your strongest lineup in, from what I can tell, going against Brisboom. So I'm glad you got that practice. And I can understand in finals maybe wanting to save your energy, not trying to burn it all against Brisboom right here.
Mm-hmm.
Then you guys took care of the Laserforce crew. That seemed like a pretty, not easy, but like you had beaten them all week and you just kind of rolled your lineup. Then yes, Men of Mystery, when we get to these games. So you had stuck with this lineup with the Beans commander. Baden, for me all week, like he was just, to me, like the biggest bright spot on this team. And I think having him on heavy was essential. And it's not that the Beans commander couldn't have worked, but it's like a very different strategy. Beans draws a lot of attention, and then the scouts got to really get a high hit diff for that to work. And no one had a high hit diff in this game. USA West really took the first game hard, it looks like. Especially Fireball DK with the freaking 2.48 or 46, and then the Than with the 2.6 hit diff. Like, they had a lot of control from what it looks like. So then you switched over in the finals game. This game was epic. From the spectator scene, it was very fun to watch. You had an amazing game, dude. 1.7 hit diff, 29 hits onto the Fear Turkey, 23 onto Simply Okay. Like, you were just taking care of the 3 hits, clearly. That was your focus. Stu with the nearly 5K ammo, 1.6. Right? Doing his best DK impression. This was a really good game, and you guys did almost win. It really looked like in like the final 3-4 minutes. And it all swung in a second. It all swung in a moment when Fear Turkey was missiling Brew at the same time as Simply Okay dropping a nuke, while I think you guys were all downstairs. Brew was killed out of the game early, and everything just swung from there. All the points went to US West. But it really looked like you guys had the elim coming up clutch.
The biggest thing, too, that happened is after Baden died, what they did is they ended up, after that, they set up both Josiah and Simply Okay in their resupply tower. They were just both sitting there, and then DK, as the ammo, was right across the gap from them to the, I think it was Green Tower is the one. I don't remember off the top of my head which all the towers were, but he was basically the tower right adjacent to them. And all they were doing is they were just sitting low and only popping up to shoot anytime somebody came up to attack them. And if they lost any shield, DK on the tower over would just reset them. And they just walled like that the entire rest of the game. And with us not having Baden as the heavy to try to force his way through that, we were having a very hard time cracking that because they had 2 3s sitting in the same tower defending and then getting reset anytime they had lost shield.
It was an epic game. US West played it very well. I'm glad that Scythe was able to end the tournament like this, with the food poisoning and the narratives of like, is he still able to play at his ceiling? And he kind of hadn't been on Commander for most of the middle part of the week, later part. So for him to come back in on Commander here and put up a really strong game, like, I know it doesn't look as strong, but compared to earlier in the week and against this team, and I believe Scythe came out of the gate swinging in this. This was really like kind of a Detroit featuring game with the Scythe Brew classic 3-hit combo and Stu on ammo with this kind of performance. Like, I'm happy for them. I'm happy that it was able to, like, it was not a rolling. They almost had this game. But overall, an unfortunate 4th place and for you, Cody, I bet that's becoming a pretty crummy, repeating story for you. I was able to escape it, and now you're having your shot at having a home field Nats. So, like, for you personally, maybe to conclude this interview, like, what were your takeaways from Nats 25, and what does this upcoming tournament mean to you?
Well, I don't know how much going into the next Nats I really have to take away from Brisbane, because between health-wise not being 100% and this next tournament being a home site tournament, they are basically about as different of a Nats as you can get between the two. My goal is just that we're going to finally win an actual tournament at our own site, which would add to the fact, if it ends up being true, that it ends up being the biggest Nats we've ever had, would make it even just that much better, even if it is a home site tournament. So the goal is that we just finally, we break through, and we break through at a time that doesn't put any asterisks in the air like we've had in other ones.
Right. Yes. Okay, man. Well, that's awesome. I like you guys. I'm a fan of you guys. I hope that this is a win. Apart from the Loveland teams somehow taking first and second place, I would love to see you guys win your home field tournament, to be honest. If Cedar City comes in with a super team and takes first, we got some new Brisbane narratives coming on strong, and that would be terrifying for everybody.
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna make sure that doesn't happen. So.
Yeah, no matter what I say here, I think the narrative is. I think the fact that they were even able to take one little practice game off of you makes you mortal, and I hope your team can use that as fuel just to become the absolute best version of yourselves. So, I don't know. Any final thoughts?
No, I think we covered basically everything.
I think so too. Okay, give everyone the details for Nats and Armageddon one more time, and like what's coming up this year.
You know what? If I'm gonna give details, I should probably get exact dates out. So hold on, let me pull up my calendar real quick.
Sounds good. I'll buy you time by saying this is shaping up to potentially be the biggest internationals we've ever seen in the Space Marines 5 community, hosted by Syracuse this summer. Cody here is one of the main players on their A team, representing Syracuse for the past few years, and they're looking to take home a trophy.
All right, so I got some dates for you. All right, so Armageddon would be first, starting in Syracuse, would be Thursday, July 9th, going into July 12th, starting and ending in Syracuse. Nats practice would be, I think the official practice would be on the 12th, but I think for anybody who's not playing in Armageddon or not doing any side events that are going on during the tournament, there might be games on the 11th as well. The actual Nats tournament is July 13th through the 17th, potentially extended to the 18th based on the number of teams we actually get to sign up. So those are your dates. If you're there for just Nats, you're there for basically a week. If you wanna enjoy in all the festivities, it could be as much of a 10-day tagging trip for you. So you'll get plenty of games in regardless of what you decide to do.
Okay. All right. There's the details, folks. If we can make this the biggest Nats ever, and it sounds like you won't be sitting around all day, even if there is a ton of teams. It sounds like we'll get to potentially do some finagling with the schedules, and, you can go hang out with people and have your social time, which really should be war room meeting time, because it's Nats and you should take it seriously. All right, enough old man ranting. Have a good. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good night, and thanks for coming on, Cody. Good talking to you.
No problem.
Best of luck with your practice.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to the long road to Nats.
Thank you for listening to ForceProSports. Subscribe to the channel and get cool perks by supporting our Patreon. Play Laserforce and become part of this era's next great sport.